Thank you for our first 100 subscribers. They say, every great journey begins with a single step. And today, we just want to take a moment, not to look at how far we still have to go, but to appreciate every single step that has led us here. 100 subscribers. Some might see it as a small number, but to us, it means 100 incredible people who chose to be here, who took a moment to listen, to connect, and to be part of the stories we create. It's 100 little lights, each one making this journey brighter, warmer, more meaningful. So, thank you for hitting that subscribe button. Thank you for sharing your time with us. And most of all, thank you for believing in this dream. This is just the beginning, and there's so much more ahead. But as long as you're here, we know these stories will keep reaching the sky, like whispers carried by the wind. Now, let's dive into a new story together. Have you ever wondered if we could send a message to the sky? Where would it go? Maybe it would reach those we love, those we always remember, or perhaps it would become part of the twinkling stars, preserving our dreams forever. Today, let us take you on a journey into dreams in the sky, where childhood dreams come alive, where friendship and family love intertwine, to create a story that touches the heart. Under the radiant glow of the sunset, amidst the lush green fields of a small town, a group of friends poured their souls into a simple, hot air balloon. But will their dreams truly soar, crossing the clouds, and reach the destination they long for? Listen closely to feel every heartbeat of this story. Perhaps, along their journey, you'll find a part of yourself, a fragment of a dream, a cherished memory, and a piece of love that never fades. In a small corner of America, where lush green fields stretch endlessly to the horizon and maple trees line the winding roads, lies a little town called Meadowbrook. This is a place where summer always arrives with golden sunlight, the hum of cicadas on tree trunks, and a gentle breeze carrying the fresh scent of grass, mixed with the warmth of the sun. This peaceful town has little to boast of, no big shopping malls, no grand amusement parks, but to the children, it is a world full of adventures and dreams. Technology had yet to take over their lives. On summer afternoons, the children of Meadowbrook would gather at the park, playing tag, flying kites, or simply lying on the grass, gazing at the endless blue sky. Elliot, Sarah, Michael, and little Lila were no exceptions. Their dreams didn't require computer screens or smartphones. Instead, they created their own stories, homemade kites, tiny fireworks from matchsticks, or even space expeditions on an old bicycle. When Elliot came up with the idea of making a hot air balloon, he knew he had to create it from whatever he had at hand. Mini cameras back then were not modern devices, but small gadgets that used cassette tapes or low-capacity memory cards. But for Elliot, capturing images of the sky from above was enough to fulfill his dream and send a message to his dad. Afternoons in Meadowbrook, with golden sunlight spilling over the fields and the cicadas' songs fading away, were moments when children like Elliot, Sarah, and Michael felt the world was still vast, full of wonders waiting to be discovered. In the early 2000s, when drones didn't exist to offer a bird's eye view, a homemade hot air balloon was to these kids a pair of wings, a way to reach their dreams. One of the most beloved spots in Meadowbrook was the large park on the edge of town. It featured expansive meadows, a small river flowing gently with crystal clear water, and an old wooden bridge spanning the two banks. A grand oak tree stood tall by the river, casting cool shade during the sweltering summer days. This was where Elliot, Sarah, Michael, and Lila gathered daily at the start of their summer break. Elliot, a 12-year-old boy with bright eyes and a kind smile, loved science and always carried a small notebook to jot down his creative ideas. But deep inside, Elliot harbored an unending ache for his late father, a pilot who used to tell him stories about the boundless sky and limitless dreams. To Elliot, the sky wasn't just a place where clouds floated. It was where the memories of his father and his greatest aspirations resided. Sarah, Elliot's best friend, was a spirited 12-year-old with a bold personality. With her fiery red hair always tied neatly and her sharp, lively eyes, Sarah had a passion for art and design. She would spend hours sketching in her notebook, imagining the worlds she and her friends could create. Sarah wasn't just a loyal companion to Elliot, but also the creative brain of the group, always knowing how to turn ideas into reality. Michael, on the other hand, was a funny, energetic boy with his tousled brown hair and a lanky builds. He often towered over his peers. Michael was the instigator of wild games, never hesitating to climb the tallest trees or dive into the cool river without a second thought. Though clumsy at times and prone to causing chaos, Michael always brought laughter and excitement to the group. Leela, Elliot's 8-year-old sister, was the youngest in the group. With her silky golden hair and wide, curious eyes, Lila saw the world as an endless wonder. She would trot after her brother and his friends, constantly blurting out innocent questions or surprising ideas. Despite her small size, Lila had a unique charm, as if her innocence and brightness could inspire everyone around her. One early summer morning, as the sun began to rise and soft light filtered through the maple trees outside, Elliot sat quietly on the wooden steps of his house. He gazed at the deep blue sky, where white clouds drifted lazily, resembling the kites he once flew with his dad. A gentle breeze carried the scent of fresh grass, evoking memories of the days he spent with his father, those cherished moments he kept deeply tucked away in his heart. Elliot remembered that summer afternoon when he was just 7 years old. His father, dressed in his pilot uniform, knelt to meet his eyes and handed him a small paper airplane. "Do you know?" his father said, his eyes shining as if dreaming of endless flights. "The sky is where dreams are kept. When you let this airplane fly, think about what you want most. The wind will carry it high and far." Young Elliot nodded, clutching the paper airplane tightly before letting it soar into the open field where the setting sun painted the horizon in hues of gold and orange. There were evenings when the sky was adorned with stars, and the two of them would lie on an old blanket in their backyard, pointing to constellations that sparkled above. His father would tell him stories about the universe and the first flights he had ever taken. You see, his father said, his deep, warm voice resonating in the stillness of the night, the sky isn't just vast, it holds the dreams of people. Elliot would often close his eyes, imagining himself flying past the stars, touching the clouds alongside his father. On the days when his father was away on duty, Elliot would often stand in the front yard, watching airplanes take off into the sky. He would imagine his father looking down from the cockpit, smiling at him. But one day, that plane never returned. The news of his father's death in an aviation accident was a devastating blow to the family. At the time, Elliot was too young to fully grasp the pain, but he knew one thing: the sky was no longer just the place where his father worked. It became the sanctuary where he sent all his love and longing. This morning, as he gazed at the white clouds drifting gently across the blue expanse, an idea sparked in Elliot's mind. What if I could build a hot air balloon? It would fly up to the sky and capture everything from above. I could send it to where Dad is. The thought made his heart race with excitement, as though he had just found a way to talk to his father again. Elliot grabbed his notebook and began sketching his first designs. His hands trembled slightly with emotion, but his eyes were filled with determination. His father had always said, "Dreams only truly soar when you take action." And now, Elliot believed this dream, whether small or grand, would be his way of keeping his father close, forever. That afternoon, beneath the sprawling branches of the large oak tree at the park, Elliot shared his idea with the group. "A real hot air balloon?" Sarah asked, raising an eyebrow, though her eyes gleamed with interest. "I can help design the frame and figure out the materials we need for the balloon," she added, already envisioning the intricate details in her mind. Michael, unable to contain his excitement, jumped up and shouted, "Awesome, but it has to be big enough to be seen from far away. I'll help get the helium. I'm sure my uncle has some at his hardware store," he exclaimed, though he hadn't quite figured out how to borrow it without getting caught. Meanwhile, Layla sat quietly, clutching the teddy bear her father had given her on one of his work trips. The bear was old, its fur slightly worn, but to her it was her best friend, the confidant for all her little thoughts. Her wide, round eyes followed her brother, sparkling with admiration every time Elliot spoke about his ambitious plans. Lila didn't fully understand the complex drawings her brother worked on so diligently, but she knew one thing: her brother was amazing, just like their dad. In Lila's small but vivid memories, her father appeared as a gentle giant. She remembered the times he would lift her high into the air, making her giggle uncontrollably, as she felt as though she were floating above the clouds. "My little Lila," her father would say, his voice warm and soothing. "One day, you'll soar higher than the clouds." Those words, though simple, etched themselves deeply into her young heart, a promise that the sky would always welcome her. When Elliot talked about the hot air balloon, Leela pressed her cheek against her teddy bear, her eyes lighting up with wonder. In her imagination, the large balloon wouldn't just rise to the sky, it would find its way to where her dad was. "I'll draw flowers and hearts on the balloon," Lila eagerly suggested, her small hands already fiddling with the hem of her shirt, as if she couldn't wait to start. Elliot looked at his sister, his heart softening. "That's a great idea, Lila," he said, gently patting her head. Lila's radiant smile was like sunlight breaking through the clouds, warm and innocent. She didn't need to understand the complexities of her brother's plans or the profound significance of the balloon. For Lila, it was simple. As long as Elliot was there, and as long as the balloon bore a heart drawn by her hand, it would undoubtedly reach their father, carrying all the whispers she kept inside. And so, under the golden glow of a summer afternoon, the plan to build the hot air balloon began. The group didn't realize it then, but this project wasn't just a summer game. It was the start of a journey brimming with emotions, where friendship, perseverance, and dreams would soar higher than the sky itself. The Meadowbrook sky remained a serene shade of blue, with clouds lazily drifting across the vast green fields that stretched endlessly. Under the shade of the great oak tree at the park, the group of children gathered with an assortment of items in hand, from Sarah's twine, Michael's old pump retrieved from his garage, to the small mini camera Elliot had saved up for months to buy. Layla sat cross-legged on the grass, clutching her familiar teddy bear, her wide eyes brimming with excitement as she watched her brother and friends prepare for the first trial. "All right, this time it's going to be perfect," Michael declared, raising his fist in the air like a commander. He enthusiastically unraveled the twine and helped Elliot attach the large yellow balloon to the wooden frame they had crafted the previous evening. Sarah stood nearby, her hands stained with green paint from adding a final coat to the balloon to make it stand out even more. "Michael, be gentle," Lila said, her voice tinged with worry as she saw him clumsily forcing the pump nozzle into the balloon. "Don't worry, Lila. I know what I'm doing." Michael laughed confidently as he twisted the pump handle firmly. The hissing sound of helium began to fill the air, and the balloon slowly inflated. But just as it began to take shape, a loud pop shattered the moment, making the entire group jump. Bits of yellow debris scattered into the air, leaving behind a stunned, heavy silence. "Michael," Sarah yelled, her hands on her hips, her face flushed with anger. "You overfilled it. I told you to be careful." "How was I supposed to know?" Michael retorted, his voice defensive and uncertain. "I was just pumping by feel." Elliot said nothing, bending down to pick up the remnants of the balloon. His eyes were quiet, but inside, disappointment churned like a rising tide. "It's okay," he said softly. "We'll try again." The second attempt came the next morning, this time with a new balloon Sarah had painstakingly sourced from a second-hand store in town. "We have to be more careful this time," she said sternly, shooting a pointed look at Michael, who merely nodded, avoiding her gaze. Elliot and Michael worked to fill the balloon again, this time following Sarah's instructions to the letter. As the balloon filled up, everyone held their breath, their eyes glued to it. But minutes later, a faint hissing sound began to emerge, growing louder and more insistent. "Oh no, it's torn," Lila exclaimed, pointing at a small tear on the balloon's surface. Before long, helium escaped in a rush, and the balloon slowly deflated, leaving behind an overwhelming sense of disappointment. "Did you check it carefully?" Michael snapped at Sarah, his tone accusatory. "Of course I did," Sarah shot back, her voice sharp with frustration. "Did you even tie the strings properly?" "All right, enough." Elliot suddenly raised his voice, cutting through their bickering. His eyes were tired, his expression weary. "We've all done our best, but it didn't work. Stop blaming each other." The third attempt was their final effort that week. Elliot and Sarah meticulously inspected every detail: the thickness of the new balloon, the attachment of the wooden frame, and the positioning of the camera. Michael even enlisted his uncle's help to double-check the helium supply. When everything was ready, the group gathered under the big oak tree, each of them silently hoping this time would be different. The balloon inflated perfectly. Elliot carefully checked every knot, his eyes gleaming with renewed confidence. "All right, let's let it go," he said, his voice low but brimming with excitement. But just as the balloon was released, a sudden gust of wind swept through, knocking the balloon off course and slamming the wooden frame against the trunk of the oak tree. A sharp crack echoed as part of the frame splintered apart. The group stood frozen, watching pieces of wood fall to the ground. "Well, that's just great," Michael growled, throwing the pump down in frustration. "We can't do anything right. It's because you don't know how to work with others," Sarah snapped back, her voice edged with irritation. "Both of you, stop it," Elliot shouted, his tired eyes reflecting the weight of their repeated failures. "If all you can do is fight, then I'll do it on my own." He turned and walked away, leaving an uncomfortable silence in his wake. Leela, who had been quietly watching from the sidelines, stared at the deflated balloon in front of her, her wide eyes brimming with unshed tears. The others were fighting, angry, but she didn't pay attention. In her small hands was a photo of her father, one where he held her as a toddler, both of them laughing under a summer sun. The picture seemed to glow under the sunlight. She remembered so clearly the last time her dad had taken her out to play. They had sat by the riverbank, his gentle hand stroking her hair as he said, "My little Lila, you know, when you have a dream, You must always believe it can come true, no matter how hard it seems. That promise had always been the guiding light in her heart. But now, looking at the shattered balloon and her brother's sad face, Lila felt as though everything was slipping away. She had poured all her hope into the hot air balloon. It wasn't just her brother's dream, it was hers too. She believed that if the balloon could reach the sky, her dad would see it. He would know she still missed him, still loved him, yet here they were, with a deflated balloon, a disheartened Elliot, and a group on the verge of falling apart. Lila lowered her head, clutching the photo tightly. Maybe I was wrong, she thought, her inner voice trembling. Maybe I'll never get the chance to send my message to Dad. Maybe he'll never know how much I miss him. Her small shoulders shook, but she refused to let her tears fall. Taking a deep breath, she forced herself to remember her father's words. You can't give up, my girl. Dreams may be hard, but if you give up, they'll never come true. She lifted her head, her eyes now shining with quiet determination. If anyone wasn't allowed to give up, it was her. Lila stood up, her small hands still clutching the photo. Elliot, she whispered, her voice as soft as a passing breeze. She walked toward her brother, her steps steady, carrying the hope that she could reignite his belief, and hers too. That afternoon, in his bedroom, Elliot sat by the window, gripping the photo of his father that Lila had handed him. Outside, the sky remained a serene blue, but within him, a storm of emotions raged. Disappointment, pressure, and an aching longing for his father that surged like unrelenting waves. Lila stood beside him, her voice gentle but unwavering. Elliot, Dad always believed you could do it. Don't give up, okay? The amber glow of sunset spilled across the window frame, painting the room in warm hues. But Elliot hardly noticed. Sitting on the windowsill, he buried his face in his hands, clutching the old photo. His heart felt as though it were being squeezed by an invisible weight, each breath laden with an indescribable pain. The photo had faded with time, but his father's smile remained as radiant as ever, his gentle eyes seeming to look directly at Elliot across the years they had been apart. He vividly remembered the day the picture was taken, when the two of them were playing in the meadow right in front of their house. His father had lifted him high, spinning him around as laughter rang out, saying, "Look, your dad's kite, strong and free." Those words echoed in Elliot's mind now, but instead of warmth, they left him feeling hollow. Elliot felt as though he was trapped in a whirlwind of emotions. Every time he closed his eyes, he saw his father sitting beside him, pointing at the sky and telling him stories about flights and dreams with no limits. But when he opened his eyes again, the blue sky outside the window only sharpened the ache in his heart. He felt like a failure, not just in building the hot air balloon, but also in keeping the promise he had made to himself to make his father proud. "I'm not good enough," Elliot murmured, his voice barely audible in the stillness. "Dad, if you were here, what would you do?" The longing for his father surged within him like powerful waves, washing away every positive thought. Each small detail from the days when his dad was still there came flooding back with painful clarity. The deep, warm laughter, the protective strength of his hands, and the look of absolute trust in his eyes whenever he said, "You can do it, Elliot. You just need to believe in yourself." But now, Elliot wasn't sure if he could do anything at all. Lila stood in the doorway, watching her brother hunched over by the window. His slim figure looked smaller and more fragile than usual. She stepped forward, gently placing a hand on his shoulder. Her voice was clear but soft, like a cool breeze. "Elliot, Dad always believed you could do it. Don't give up, okay?" Elliot lifted his head, his eyes glistening with emotions he had been holding back. He looked at Lila, and in that moment, he saw their father in her innocent but hopeful gaze. He took a deep breath, as if trying to gather all the broken pieces of himself and forge them into a new strength. "Do you really think so, Layla?" Elliot asked, his voice trembling slightly. "I'm sure of it," Lila replied, her eyes sparkling. "Dad always told me that no matter how hard things get, Elliot would make it. Dad believed in you, and so do I." Elliot looked back at the photo once more. Lila's words were like a small flame, quietly flickering in his heart, but slowly growing, burning away the fog of despair. He ran a finger over his father's face in the photo and whispered, "I won't give up, Dad. I promise." He turned back to Layla, placing a hand on her head and giving her a gentle but genuine smile. "Thank you, Lila. I'll try again, but this time I won't do it alone." In that moment, Elliot realized that his dream wasn't just his own. It was a bond connecting him to his father and to the people he loved. The next day, under the bright golden sunlight, the group gathered once more. Sarah placed a reassuring hand on Elliot's shoulder. Michael scratched his head apologetically for his earlier temper, and Lila beamed with encouragement. The fragments of their past failures now became the motivation to do better. This time with no anger, no blame, only genuine teamwork. That afternoon, as the sun dipped lower, casting a golden glow across the lush green fields of Meadowbrook Park, a gentle breeze carried the sweet scent of wildflowers and the soft murmur of the nearby stream. Beneath the sprawling oak tree, the group of friends busied themselves with the final touches on the hot air balloon they had poured their hearts into. Sarah carefully held a paintbrush, adding the finishing touches to the surface of the massive balloon. The whimsical designs Lila had drawn, hearts, stars, and colorful butterflies, stood out vividly under the late afternoon sun. "It's done," Sarah said, standing back to admire their work, her eyes shining with pride. "Now, this balloon isn't just going to fly, it's going to carry all of our dreams." Michael, sitting cross-legged on the grass amidst a pile of old wooden scraps, was busy assembling a stabilizer for the camera. He looked up, his forehead damp with sweat, but his grin wide and triumphant. All done. The camera won't wobble this time. No way we're failing now. Nearby, Elliot stood quietly, double-checking the knots on the ropes. His hand gently brushed over the smooth surface of the balloon, feeling the breeze skim past. Inside him was a mixture of nervous anticipation and quiet excitement. This balloon wasn't just a summer project. It was a dream, a message, and most importantly, a promise to his dad, a promise to keep trying, to never give up. Lila sat on the grass, clutching her teddy bear, her wide eyes fixed on her brother. She skipped over to him, looking up with a radiant smile. Elliot, this balloon is the most beautiful in the whole world. Dad's going to love it. I know he will. Her innocent yet heartfelt words warmed Elliot's heart, and he nodded gently, as if silently accepting the trust she had placed in him. As the sunset began painting the sky a deep red, the group gathered around the hot air balloon. Elliot held the rope tightly, taking a deep breath. "Ready?" he asked, his voice trembling slightly, but his eyes gleaming with hope. "Ready," Sarah, Michael, and Lila responded in unison. Slowly, Elliot released the rope, and the enormous balloon began to lift off the ground. At first, it hovered hesitantly, as if uncertain about taking flight. Then, a gentle breeze swept through, lifting the balloon higher and farther away from the children's reach. The group tilted their heads upward, their eyes fixed on the balloon as it grew smaller and smaller against the fiery hues of the sunset. The camera attached to the hot air balloon began capturing its first images. The tiny screen in Michael's hands displayed a breathtaking view of the vast blue sky, drifting white clouds, and the shimmering lights of Meadowbrook below. From above, the town looked like a beautiful painting, with quaint rooftops, winding roads, and the expansive park where the group stood. "Look!" Lila exclaimed, her wide eyes sparkling. "The balloon is touching the sky." Elliot said nothing, silently watching, his eyes glistening with unshed tears. In that moment, he felt as if he was sending a piece of his heart into the heavens, a place where he believed his father was watching from afar. The group stood in quiet awe, watching the balloon drift farther and farther away until it became just a tiny dot against the radiant sky. The breeze continued to blow softly, carrying the gentle sounds of summer, and with it, the children's dreams, soaring higher than the clouds, farther than they ever imagined. As the sunset faded, giving way to a deep indigo sky dotted with the first stars, the group sat in a circle on the grass. The peaceful ambiance of Meadowbrook Park surrounded them, the place where their dreams had just taken flight with the balloon. Elliot held the old camera in his hands, his eyes focused on the small screen. The images of the wide, endless sky unfolded, with clouds lazily drifting by like friendly waves. Meadowbrook, as seen from above, looked almost otherworldly, small yet luminous, like a scene from a fairy tale. Quaint houses clustered together, roads winding through fields, and the wooden bridge spanning the clear river, all glowing softly in the twilight, as if illuminated by the children's dreams. Lila leaned closer to her brother, her wide eyes glistening like crystal. Elliot, look, that's the place Dad used to tell us about, isn't it? She said, her voice trembling, not with fear, but with wonder. Elliot didn't answer immediately. He looked at the screen, then lifted his gaze to the sky, where the balloon had become a mere speck, slowly disappearing into the vast, darkening expanse. For a moment, his heart stood still. He didn't know if his father could see the balloon, but deep down, he believed his dad would feel it. That warm feeling was like his father's embrace, melting away all the sorrow and disappointment of the past days. The sky, Elliot said softly but clearly, isn't just a place where dreams are kept. It's also where we remember the people we love. The group remained silent. Elliot's words touched something deep within each of them. They didn't respond, so only quietly gazed at the starry sky above, as if every twinkling light carried a piece of their dreams and love. Michael was the first to break the silence, but instead of his usual playful banter, he spoke with heartfelt sincerity. I think we didn't just make a hot air balloon. We created something truly beautiful, didn't we? Sarah nodded, her eyes shining with pride. I never thought we could do something like this, but maybe anything is possible when we work together. Lila, sitting close to Elliot, hugged her teddy bear tightly. She looked up at her brother, then gave him a small, tender smile. Elliot, I think Dad is smiling at us, somewhere up there in the sky. Elliot smiled back, gently ruffling her hair. I think so too, Lila. As night fully descended, the group remained on the grass. The starry sky above sparkled like a grand, infinite tapestry. Suddenly, Lila's clear, playful voice broke the quiet. Next time, can we build a rocket to go even higher? Michael burst out laughing, playfully punching Elliot on the shoulder. Great idea. We'll be the greatest scientists ever. Sarah pretended to sigh, but her lips curved into a smile. Just make sure nothing blows up this time, Michael. Their laughter echoed through the tranquil park, blending with the breeze that carried it across the fields. Above them, the vast sky stretched endlessly, carrying their dreams that flew higher, farther, and beyond the limits they had ever imagined. Elliot quietly lay back on the grass, his eyes fixed on the stars. A profound sense of peace washed over him, as though everything he had hoped for had found its place in the universe. Somewhere among the stars, he believed his father was watching, proud of what they had accomplished. And Elliot knew that as long as he held on to the people he loved, no dream was out of reach. The camera slowly panned upward, capturing the star-studded sky, where the hot air balloon had disappeared into the night, carrying with it a quiet but heartfelt message for those who had always believed and stood by them. In that serene moment, Meadowbrook continued to hold on to its dreams, its friendships, and a summer that would forever shine in the memories of the children. Thank you for listening to today's story, Dreams in the Sky, We hope this tale brought you moments of peace, cherished childhood memories, and deep feelings about family, friendship, and dreams. The sky isn't just a place where dreams are kept, it's where we find hope and connection with those we love. So don't hesitate to let your heart soar beyond the limits of imagination. Before we part, don't forget to like and subscribe to the Moonlitwest channel so we can meet again in future stories, journeys that will guide you into beautiful dreams. Now, let the gentle images of this story lead you into a peaceful night's sleep, sweet dreams, and may you rest well. We'll see you on the next journey. Good night.